Welcome back, everyone. I'm Tom Murphy, and this is Trinidad Now on Trinidad Times Television. In segment 2 with Sara Ruybalid, the last candidate to be interviewed. The reason these are going to get up a little bit late, but it's okay. They're in depth, and they're very, I don't know what I'm going for there. But anyway, economic development. Sara, what's the most pressing issues facing Trinidad?
We need to create another business besides marijuana. We need to go out and find it and bring it back to have sustainability with our young people so they can have jobs that pay above minimum wage and to keep them here so they can have their families here and have their grandchildren here later on. This boom and bust cycle has been terrible and we need to stop it. And the city needs to realize what is going on. And I want to also point out, I was the first to point that out at the candidate forum about the boom and bust cycle. And then everybody started talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to stop that. We need to find other industry and other things to come here.
So at this point, do you have any ideas what some of the, and actually that's a later question. We'll get to that. So, so describe, Sara, your vision. If you could do a Michael J. Fox and go into the future 4 years, what's happening in Trinidad?
I would like to see Trinidad prosper. I would like to see more retail and art venues come to Trinidad. I think those would be fantastic things. They'd be safe. They'd keep our people here. I would like to see a safer Trinidad for everybody and to see the crime go down and the homelessness problem go down and to hopefully someday at this hospital be able to see them deliver babies again, and to see Trinidad State Junior College be able to have more classes to keep people here, and then also to use it so they can use it as a stepping stone onto a four-year university or college.
Right.
And to see them increase that, because their enrollment is down too.
Right. All right, so a couple things. You talked about maybe this be more of an art community. What do you think about Space to Create? That is, we just had a block party for it to announce, that things are moving forward. What do you think about that?
I like the Space to Create, but I also think you need to remember everybody else that supports that. So I think you need to include everybody, and it needs to, Trinidad needs not to just focus on one thing. They need to focus on several things and have a broader vision, which I think they kind of look at just one thing each time, and I think they need to expand their horizons to several industries, not just one entity. And with the Space to Create, it could be several different things, but it could be very limited or it could be very wide. It depends how they want to do it.
So how do you see your role if you're to get elected to help facilitate that?
Well, I think that we need to help economic development and to go out and try to find new industry, and when we hear of something, follow up on it.
Right.
I would like to see transportation increase along the Front Range. I would be willing to work with the other cities like Pueblo has with Amtrak. Most people don't even realize that they are running a small line from La Junta to Pueblo every day. Right now, most people don't even realize that. And we used to have train along the Front Range with the Colorado and Southern. The tracks are still there, and it would be wonderful to connect the Front Range. Governor Ritter originally brought that up. He was going to do that, and instead their focus has been only Denver with the light rail system. It needs to be up and down the whole entire Front Range. And that would also promote jobs and promote transportation and industry.
Okay. So then you're in favor of, and this is more of a follow-up question, so you're okay with the fact that we hired, I think in my memory, the first time an economic development person?
I thought we had an economic development person before. Tara Marshall was hired as the economic development person
I'm not
before.
sure that was her only label.
Well, she was hired as the city planner after Louis Feinberg left.
I think Tara's had quite a few labels,
hats.
but even if we said, okay,
We did have economic
let's say
development before.
Tara was the first one.
No, Carl
Who-
Gabrielson was
That
an
was
economic development,
he was planner, city planner.
but then he was economic development city planner, wasn't he?
I don't think so. I think, to my knowledge, other than Tara, I think this is the first time that we've really had somebody just dedicated for this. Whereas before, I think it
don't-
was more like we hope people come here and invest. Now we have somebody actively.
No, I
out
don't. I
there.
don't believe so, Tom, because I remember years ago we had.
Who?
Like I said, I'm sure Carl Gabrielson
He wasn't. He was the
did
city
both
planner.
as city planner and economic development.
I don't know.
And then Tara Marshall, it was
But no,
my
but I'm talking about the last 20, 30 years that I've been here. Before, again, Carl was city planner, not, but we're gonna get into
Mary Holton was before that.
city planner.
But she was city planner, economic development. I'm sure of it.
Okay,
But
we'll
maybe I'm
we'll
wrong.
go back and check. I don't remember having two titles.
But I think they tried to do economic development. I mean, I
Okay.
remember back when
So
Bill
then
Cordova was city manager, they were doing
would we say
economic
that they
development.
failed then because we haven't leveled off with the boom and bust? Did we fail in not stabilizing with a variety of businesses? Because shouldn't we have not had a bust if they were doing economic development and we had other businesses here that we would have relied on?
The first real bust that Trinidad had was the coal. I mean, when the coal decreased in the 70s, that was the first real bust, downflow in Trinidad. I mean, before that time, you have to realize we had Ward's, we had Sears, and we had J.C. Penney in downtown Trinidad.
Right.
And Gamble's. Most people don't even remember those things. So that was the first downfall. Then the second one was with the natural gas because of all the state legislation that went. And, I mean, they moved. They didn't close. They just moved.
But my question, though, is if we had an economic, we're getting off the rails here a little bit, but let me just say, if we
Maybe I don't
had
understand your
an
question.
economic development, then did they fail if we suffered another crash? Because
don't
they would
think-
have, if the people you're talking about, that goes back 10, 15 years.
Right.
Because Carl came here I talked to him recently, he got here in 98 or 99.
Right. They didn't fail. I don't think people realized what was going to happen. They look at one industry and think, oh, this is it. We have, here we go again, and everything's wonderful. They don't want to see outside the box that things could go downhill. It's just like with the marijuana revenue. Instead of spending it all, I think they ought to be saving some of it for when that next cycle happens. And then also it should be something to benefit all. But yes, economic development needs to look broader at everything. And not just economic development. It needs to be the city council and the city manager
That's what I was saying. If you're in that position, how can you help facilitate?
to make sure that they're doing that, and to make
Okay.
sure if you hear of some industry coming in, that you follow up with it. Computer science
Okay.
is something that can be done anywhere. It doesn't have to be just all in the Boulder area or Denver area.
Right.
I mean, we could feasibly get those jobs here if we would follow up with that.
And we're going to circle around to this really. But we're going to keep going with the questions. So we'll revisit this here in just a second. But how familiar are you with the city budget? Do you know what the city's main revenue sources and expenditures are?
Right now, their main revenue is the marijuana tax money.
Right.
It's huge. Their main expenditures are health insurance with city employees.
Okay. What if you just took marijuana out of the equation? Then what are the other revenue streams?
Taxes.
Okay. Okay.
And their biggest expenditure is going to be city employment, probably.
Okay. Circling back around, let me read this to you. That's why I didn't want you to, answer all my questions before I asked them. So industry recruitment is very difficult for rural communities, especially ones where healthcare, education, and workforce development systems are below par. What type of business would you like to attract to Trinidad? And of course, as I said before we started, the implied question is, what sort of business would you like to attract here besides marijuana?
Like I said, computer science is something that can be done anywhere. And I would like to see expanding on our natural resources again. I would also like us to see, I would like to see Trinidad increase their water rights. I would like to see more with the outdoors. We could do more with outdoor supplying camping and bringing in those type of industry too, to supply outdoor venues. Trinidad is a great market. It just needs to be expanded on, and not to focus on one thing.
Well, let me ask you this. Several years ago when the oil and gas were booming, the Moulters really were behind a program at the college with heavy equipment. And it seems to me, everybody talks about the bust that's coming from marijuana. But right now, it's pretty hot. Wouldn't it make sense to have a program at the junior college where we teach people to grow the plants?
No, I don't agree with that, because they're doing that at CSU Pueblo. Don't compete with a bigger college for the same program, and I don't know if it's really taking off yet or not. There's been a lot of talk of it in the Pueblo Chieftain, and I know they've been through a couple of deans already on that issue. Jennifer Mullins was one of the people.
Right.
So now I think they could expand on other things. What about a culinary arts program here in Trinidad?
We actually, they had plans of that, because with the cooking show that we do, and they had the equipment, and my understanding, they bought the equipment and it got put away, and then the equipment was cannibalized for the kitchen upstairs or whatever, and it's either gone or doesn't exist. But it was, I don't know if it was Ruth Ann or whoever followed her, but there was talks. I just want to go back to this. To me, you've got these people in an industry that I've talked to a lot of these people, and as many people as I've talked to, there's as many different ideas on growing, and it just seems, I'm from an ag state, originally, and they still needed to teach people how to grow corn, because it's not something, even if you grow up on a farm, where you just know. So it seems to me it would be a natural, but that's my opinion.
Well, I think they ought to expand the CLETA program, which is the law enforcement program. They used to have it here, and now it's all over at the Alamosa campus, or you
Right.
have to go to La Junta to take it through Otero Junior College. Also the lineman program, and then the diesel mechanic program. I heard that they started it, and now they're not having it anymore. So, and Trinidad State needs to not just be a vocational school. Again, it needs to be a stepping stone, like it was for me, to go on to a four-year college. That's originally what it was for. I mean, my grandfather went there, my mother went there, my dad went there, I went there, and that's what we used it for, was to go on. And that's what it needs to go back to. It needs, now they're just looking at vocational, where it needs to be open for both, not just one issue. And like the NRA Whittington Center, they've had a lot of things with that. They brought in a big sponsor with the gunsmithing program. I'm not sure what happened with it, but yes, we need to continue with our gunsmithing program. It's one of the best in the country, if not the best. But Trinidad State also needs to look at other industry to bring to Trinidad, and not just Trinidad, but in general, the community colleges. Like at Pueblo Community College, they cut the dental assisting program. They still have the dental hygiene program, but there's only 2 dental hygiene programs in the state, to my knowledge, one in Pueblo and one in Denver. Just think if we could bring that here. The cosmetology department, they were really cut back a couple years ago. You still need that.
Without being too blasphemous, I just think that we're getting sandbagged here by the state with the junior college, because all the things that you've talked about, it's like, why are they not fully implemented?
Well, I think the college decided to take a lot of their programs to Alamosa, to the Trinidad State Junior College campus over there, and we need to return those programs back to Trinidad and not compete with Adams State College now.
But we don't make those decisions. City Council doesn't make those decisions.
I know, but we could work with the Colorado Community College Board to say, hey, we need this.
Right.
What can we do to...
I just know in particular with the gunsmithing, their equipment's falling apart. It's outdated, and it's very disappointing. That's a personal opinion. Of it's not what it could be. as far as the college. And not that city council or anybody has any really a whole lot to say, but it would be nice if the state did a little bit more. That's my opinion.
Well, the state
And-
needs
but
to
this
do
isn't
more,
about me.
but the
Right.
city council also needs to be involved in that too. And if you had a child going to college, would you want all the marijuana shops right across the street?
Oh, let's not go there.
Would you want your teenage child,
I would have
even
to
in
use,
Boulder,
I would,
they're not near the campuses.
I would defer to what Mr. Matei has said at council meetings, that he has kids that are up there and they're by campus and it's a non-issue. It doesn't affect them in what they're doing. So,
Well, I think the city also needs to be aware of it.
Right.
Because if you go up to the Boulder campus, I will tell you this, you don't see them right across the street from the Boulder campus.
right.
Even in very liberal Boulder, you do not see that.
But if,
And if you had a child and you had a chance for one or the other or to Pueblo or something, I mean, you don't see them right across the street from any other college campus.
well, when I was in college, and it was a while ago, if I had enough money for a 6-pack of beer, I was doing pretty good. And I imagine that a lot of college students are now like I was then, and I doubt that they have a lot of money
But if
for
you were
things like
seeing
that. If what?
if you took your teenage child on a college visit and you were seeing that, wouldn't you be less likely to have your child attend there? See, I disagree.
So-
I would.
Yeah, no, not at all. But that could, we'll come back and talk about this at length, but.
And the city council changed the rules too about the area that they were going to allow marijuana facilities. And one of them was, they were supposed to be within 1,000 feet of a school.
I was there, my contention is they evolved. So, just as people came and were allowed, as they are in every meeting, to have input. You know, as a citizen, just because you're not sitting on council, you still have input.
My
because they
mother and I
take
went
public
there and we were
comment.
criticized for showing up at the meeting and speaking out against all the marijuana.
By who?
The acting mayor at that time, who's not.
On
the current-
the diet, because I have
Yes.
I have every tape.
Yes.
You're gonna have to give me the date, and we'll go back and look at it.
My mother and I were there.
Well,
and spoke out against it
without
and said,
saying
"Think
names, we
wild."
know he talked to people like, you know, they were still in junior high school, and love them to death. But he could berate people. That is not in dispute,
He and another council person who's still sitting on council.
right?
So,
We're getting off the rails here because
we are.
I'll invite you back for another session, but we'll talk
but
about
we
these
did.
things.
Well, you said that I could have shown up. I did.
And everybody else does. And I see when they do show up in council's defense that they make a difference. The council listens. Things have changed from when I've been filming for 12 years, and things have changed. And I think we have one of the best councils we've had in a long time as far as respect and moving forward. I mean, I could
beg
lay
to
some blame
differ.
on a lot of things, you know, previous employees and council members, but you
I
can't
beg to
change. You can't
differ.
change the past. So the whole point of this interview is we want people that are going to move forward in the future, and hopefully make it better for all of us. But this is fun. You're going to come back. We're going to do more shows. All right. So I read what other types of businesses. You got me off track here. So, all right.
We
next
already
question.
described that.
Huh?
I already described that. Several different businesses.
Yes. The growth in the tourism economy has been outstanding over the last 2 years. Do you support this new tourism economy? What will you do? What will you do to continue to promote the tourism industry?
A lot of the tourism that we actually have are people coming through Trinidad. And that is a lot of elderly people, actually. I was working part-time at the Welcome Center, and most of those were middle-aged elderly people. That was a big part of the people at the Welcome Center.
Well, they're the ones with the money that can travel.
Right.
And the time.
Right. So that was a big part of the people that we saw.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because the gentleman I interviewed previously, Jason Pixley, was an advocate for, the people are coming in here and buying marijuana, but they have nowhere to consume it. So they have to get on, and it's well documented, 70% probably of the people buying are from out of state, which means that, they need to take whatever chances they're taking. Are you in favor at all of what they had done briefly? Was they had a smoking club or something along those lines?
No, I'm totally against a smoking club because all you're going to do is have people get totally stoned and then get on the highway and they're
Okay.
going to kill somebody else. The traffic fatalities have soared in Colorado since they legalized marijuana. And it's not just alcohol anymore. It's alcohol, marijuana, and
Right.
other drugs. And no, I'm totally against having a smoking club where they can just go and then go onto the highway. If they want to go home and consume it in their own home, no, I don't have a problem with that. But
What about
I don't
for
want 'em out.
hotels and things like that?
I'd rather have them there than in a smoking club where they can just get out in the highway and kill somebody or
Now,
kill
I
themselves.
can't-
But mostly I'm
I
worried about
can't
the other person.
Contradict the stats because I don't know. Generally, I don't know that's true. But I got a feeling some people will watch this and look it up. So,
That's fine.
yeah, okay.
But remember, if they go to a smoking club, they got to leave at some point.
Right. But what if they have a designated driver like they do for alcohol?
You are still, if you are in a club and you are breathing the same air, you are being exposed to it, and you could, I'm not sure what the
they
percentage is that you
right.
could,
They have I don't want to call it a party van, but they have one or two vehicles that are driving around and allowing people to smoke.
and they're supposed to not be
And they're supposed to be sectioned off.
sectioned off.
Who
But still,
ever thought?
it would still be, if they are doing that, to take them to their place or
Right.
whatever, instead of saying, oh, come in here, consume your product, and then go and get in a car. No, please
Right.
don't do that.
As Mr. Pixley said, and I'm not quoting him, but I get the idea is if people are going to come here, and we have them here, just as we have done with tourism, the goal is to get them to stay as long as we can and stay in the hotels and eat in the restaurants and, enjoy the community. So that's what some of the pro marijuana people are saying.
Well, several of the hotels allow it.
Yeah.
So I don't
Okay.
see that is a problem.
Okay.
But no, I'm totally against the consumption clubs because, like I said, they have to leave at some point.
Okay.
If they want to go to a hotel room and stay there and then,
Okay. Okay. We're going to, again, you and I, we can, as I've done with some other people, this could go all day, but I've got a lot of videos I got to get posted to YouTube or they're going to be mad at me.
okay.
So we're going to move on, but if you'll come back another time, we may continue this. The city created, and again, as I said before, it may sound like I've already asked you this question, but we got to, I'm trying to be fair to everybody and
Okay.
ask the same questions. The city created an economic development department 2 years ago. What ideas would you have for economic development if elected?
I think I already stated that. I think
Yeah.
we need to expand our horizons and look at other industry to come here and to maintain here.
Okay.
I think we need a bigger view than just marijuana. And I
Okay.
think we need to expand on those
Okay.
issues such as transportation, water, natural
Okay.
resources, and trying to get other industries such as computer and technology.
Okay. This next question actually has gotten some interesting answers. Last year, the city economic development focus was on stabilizing our downtown to create an attractive atmosphere for commercial businesses. They have rental assistance. They have facade redevelopment grants. They have Main Street patios. The entertainment district, which was utilized by the Blues Festival the night before. What do you think of all those things?
I don't care for the downtown patios. I think I haven't seen them utilized a whole lot when I've driven by them. I think the way they are, they're kind of unsafe. There was quite an article in the Chronicle News about them, and there were a lot of negative quotes against it. So I don't think that was a very good idea, and it wasn't a very safe idea either. And due to their lack of utilization. I think most people agree with that. The Downtown Blues Festival, my daughter and I walked down there, and there was quite a large consumption of marijuana going on at that point. And we turned and we walked down Church Street instead. I didn't feel it was a real family-friendly atmosphere that night. I think it needs to be a family-friendly atmosphere for every age group. And it was not something that I wanted my teenager at. I think things need to be for everyone, not just a certain group. If you cater to only a certain group, then you eliminate a whole lot of other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that could be different if it were done again next year.
Different.
And how it was done. It was sponsored by a marijuana store, the downtown, the night before the Blues Festival. The Blues Festival wasn't nearly the same as the downtown night. The Blues Festival itself was mostly an older crowd because the tickets were, pretty expensive. And so I think that brought that group in. But the night before, it was a rough crowd down there.
I was down there, and I would get into
I
a
walked
debate.
I walked up to Commercial, and we turned on Church Street because it wasn't something that we wanted to be part of. And
Okay.
I didn't feel I wanted my teenage daughter.
I do have to qualify, but I didn't have any of those feelings. But we'll get off the rails again and debate, and this will go on for 2 hours. But we don't have that much time. But next question: the vacancy rate downtown in 2015 was 61%. In 2017, it's 29%. What would you attribute that to?
You said you were given those numbers from City Council the other night, correct?
No, I got those from Jonathan Taylor,
From
the
Jonathan
Economic
Taylor.
Development.
29% is the occupancy rate now?
Right, and they addressed it again without me being able to quote the numbers exactly, but they addressed it at Tuesday night's council meeting.
I think the vacancy rate is higher than that. I really do. Just thinking about the stores that are open versus closed right now. I don't think that number is accurate. Mostly there's been a huge amount of stores that have opened. 11 stores that I counted, just thinking about it, in those 2 streets in the historic district. Again, I think they need to focus on other things in the historic district besides the marijuana. Breckenridge, for instance, took their marijuana shops and moved it off their main street because they saw, in their historic district, because they saw what a problem it was. And I think that Trinidad needs to consider that too. I think the vacancy rate is higher than that, though.
Okay. And we've touched on this, but where should the marijuana money be spent?
It should be something that is beneficial for all of the residents of Trinidad, not somebody's agenda or select few. And I would like to see some of it saved for when the boom is over, but then also something like, why not put it towards everyone's utility bills in the city of Trinidad? That would be fair to everybody,
Right.
and benefit all of us. And I know, in the wintertime, and I'm sure you as a business owner, and even maybe give a higher percentage to the business owners, because they are the ones that are dealing with all of this downtown. I think that would be much more fair. And then
I just
to
have-
benefit
yeah.
to give it to all of the residents of Trinidad.
Yeah.
So much towards their utility bill.
So I'm going to make this about me for just a second.
Okay.
A few years ago, myself and Mr. Bolton actually did, 2 years ago, we did make that proposal to city. There was a gentleman who showed up and said that his facility would generate $2 million in revenue to the city for the fee, the $25 fee. And as I was sitting there, I thought, well, that's a lot of money. And considering where we went with ARPA, where we went from 66 million to 170 million, and now it's closed down, and our total utility bill is about $10 million a year for the entire city that we all pay. Mm-hmm. And so myself and Mr. Bolton and Attorney Dennis Malone we put together a proposal of taking that money, because that was only one grower that had said his revenue expected to generate $2.5 million. I thought if there's 4 or 5 of those, it might work out that we'd all have free utilities. So that was a thought. But it turns out that Gabe England, who is the city manager at the time, they really did take our proposal seriously. And they looked at it, but it wasn't legal in doing that. You can't just slap fees and taxes and things on things, just because, hey, that's a great revenue
But
stream.
we're not slapping the fees and taxes on things. We have already collected that revenue. And I think it's fair to take that revenue and split it up after you've collected it.
Well, they're using the marijuana revenue for different things, and that is a portion. I'm just saying, I'm interjecting that I had the same thoughts that you did. If there's going to be that much money, because the utilities are a burden for me. I've got a 16,000 square feet total when you add in the carriage house, and let me tell you, it's not easy. And so it's a good. The point is, it's a good thought. And we tried it. It was presented to council. Myself and Mr. Bolton did a presentation, actually, and they took it seriously. But it wasn't legal. I have to look at my tape here just to make sure we don't run out of tape, and this goes,
I think it would be legal.
unrecorded.
I think it would be, because
I
you were
can't-
talking about beforehand, we've already collected this money,
No,
and if it were something given back to
this
the
is
people.
the fee that the
Right.
city was going to collect
Right.
on the grow.
Right.
I'm telling you, very well-educated, vetted governmental attorneys said you can't do it. So we can sit here and say, oh, it's legal, it's not. They vetted it. That's all I can tell you. I'm not a lawyer, so we tried. But we're getting off the rails. What else
if it
what
can't
else
be-
do you want to spend the marijuana money on?
Well, then I was just going to say that. You could use it towards kids programs and things like that. Instead of charging $40 for a kid to play football,
Right.
why not charge them $20?
Right.
I mean, you could use it a lot more ways, and to expand our parks and make them nicer and to maintain them better. I mean, you look at other places that are the size of Trinidad, their parks are much nicer.
Right.
Look at the Colorado and Alta Street Islands. The Colorado Avenue did need to be paved a couple years ago. Nobody will dispute that, because the potholes were horrendous. But instead of taking off a layer of asphalt, they just put another layer on. It's up to the curb. It's ruined the islands, which is part of the Parks Department.
Right.
If you go to the corner of Colorado and Nevada, where the drainage system is on the northwest corner, you can see 6 layers of asphalt. That can't be good on the pipes, all that weight.
Right.
And the city, every time they do upkeep and maintenance, they need to take the layers off before they put another one down. Because if the pipe breaks, you, the homeowner, are responsible from the main line to your house for the repair. Most people don't realize that.
Right.
So, I mean, the city could use a lot of that, and to redo our infrastructure and to
So-
maintain it.
So they're getting ready to finalize their budget, and they've had public discussions about what to do with the marijuana money. They had a retreat in August. The public was invited, and they've had meetings, and the numbers are out. I don't have them in front of me, but have you participated in any of that, or is this something that if you get elected, then you'll participate in, which would be, natural?
No, I haven't, because I think a lot of things have been decided behind closed doors at City Council. I
Okay.
really do. One of the issues of the $50,000 subsidy to the district attorney's office, that was never talked about in public open again. They gave it last year, and then they're going to give it again this year.
Right.
And how are we going to guarantee it's only spent on Trinidad crimes? That's one thing I know for sure, that is supposed to be funded through the 2 counties and the state, not the cities of Trinidad and Walsenburg. And I mean, that wasn't done at all. That was done behind closed doors. Last year it was done with Gabe England and I can't think of the lady's name who left. That was the county administrator, Leanne Fabic. It was done with Gabe England, and Leanne Fabic met and decided this. And it was never brought up. It was never talked about in public forum. And then now, the city council budget, it says, Councilman Matei recommends this. I mean, and just all these things with the marijuana money and how it would be spent, and 400 or 200 or 400,000 for the bathhouses in Monument Lake. I mean, really, how many people from Trinidad are really going to go up to Monument Lake and use the bathhouses? It needs to be something that everybody will benefit from, not just a few people.
Well, we're going to run out of tape, but that doesn't mean that we have to stop the discussion. I'm just going to get up and change the tape here in a minute, but I don't want to cut you off and think that you're talking and then that isn't recorded. As I explained earlier, Sarah, too, some of these questions you haven't been a part of, but I'm in my effort to be fair to everybody and ask the same questions. This question, water losses are 40% from the water treatment plant to delivery. What plans are in place now to repair, and how can we not fall behind again?
Well, before they were supposed to redo the line, and I don't think they have. And then they're talked about doing some inner sleeve in the water pipes. I don't really know how long that is going to last. I think that needs to be looked at too. If it's only going to be a couple of years that thing is going to last, I don't think. I think the city needs to do something more permanent and in place, even though it maybe cost more now. It may cost less later on. Goes back to the old saying, you get what you pay for.
Sure.
And I think sometimes the city always, instead of being proactive, they're reactive.
Okay. And I know right now that my tape's about to run out.
Okay.
And so I still have a couple more questions. We would take our official break, but I'm going to get up and switch
Okay.
tapes. You're doing great.